Hello, welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I'm Eric with EMS Now. He is Sam Mason, Business and Operations Lead North America for Luminovo. Happy New Year, Sam.
Happy New Year, Eric. Nice to be with you again.
Yeah, no, always good. It's been a bit. It's been since last year since we spoke. Good to get a catch up, with the launch of 2026. But where do I want to start? I want to start maybe allowing you some time to kind of give an overview of your manufacturing module and the benefit that it can bring to customers, because I think that's really core to your
Yeah,
business.
for sure. Maybe do you mind if I give a little 45-second synopsis on Luminova as a broader view and then dive into the platform?
Go for it.
So just in case for the listeners who are brand new or who this is your first time seeing me, Luminovo is an electronic supply chain platform. What that means really for the EMS industry is to reduce the time required to take a request for a quote into a competitively priced, repeatable, consistent quote. And for the OEM side, reducing things like risk in the market or negotiating on price. And so Luminova is an electronic supply chain platform, just for those key players.
Mhm.
And one of the things that it's not necessarily new, but the value proposition is new to North America, is our robust manufacturing module. And the element that makes it robust, there are similar systems out there that do similar things to this. But where we really shine is just how precisely we can model the PCBA factory. And so what's upcoming is there's always a never-ending list of exciting possibilities in the supply chain. I'll tell you about what we have right now is the ability to completely model a PCBA facility. So this is like looking at your drivers and your activities and your various resources at your sites and pulling all of the necessary technical information from your design files, like your pick and place or your Gerber files or your BOM, and developing automatically a model for your labor. So as you can imagine, Eric, like if you have, let's say you are the owner of EMS and you have 3 lines in Missouri and 6 lines in California, and someone comes to you with a new quote, one of your natural questions will be like, well, how does choosing which location and which line affect the overall cost of the build? Because different lines will be better at certain things. And so the nice thing about the manufacturing module is that it allows you to very accurately, that's the new part in the industry, is that you can extremely accurately model the manufacturing process, the time associated with it, and the corresponding cost.
So let me dig into that a little because I find that fascinating. If I think of cost of goods sold for an EMS company, right? You have labor, you have overhead, you got materials, you got markup, generally speaking, right? Those are some
Mhm.
buckets. Um, the labor one varies, right? So the labor cost, what we used to call shop rate, right, was
Yeah.
everybody. I remember when I was in the industry and people would go, "What's your shop rate?" It's like, God, hated that question, right? Because they assume it's a fixed thing. But how do you model that, especially as you just indicated, California versus Missouri, right? So it's a complex thing, and it's also just a small portion of the overall pie, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would, it is a complex thing to model, but once you have the model, it's actually not very complex at all to automate. And so I'll give you an example. Um, let's take a simple scenario where you're doing only one side of one side of a PCBA, and so you have a printer, pick and place, reflow, AOI inspection, and then maybe some final test.
yeah.
So um, typically these EMS, they know how long it takes to place various components. And if they don't, they can go measure it, right? And in the future, what we'll be doing, um, I guess I should say we already have this, but we'll be rolling this out more cleanly, is our industry preferred model, right? Like, what is the industry labor model that we can provide to our customers? Because it is a hard thing to model. But once you have this model associated with your factory, all you need are the inputs. You need to know how many boards, you need to know how many BGAs you're placing, you need to know how many various components, how many are through hole, if it's wave solder or selective. So
Mhm.
you can imagine once you have that model, then getting to that final number is actually extremely simple. Um, and the beauty of Luminovo is it can automatically capture all of those inputs.
Mhm.
So, instead of going through your bill of materials and seeing, okay, how many of these are complex parts to place on the board, you can just pull that from your bill of materials because we know the packaging information and we know all of this
Right.
this data.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the manufacturing module is definitely it's just a super super piece of software to simplify and to consolidate
Mhm.
an EMS's process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
And that would establish then the should cost for the particular build.
well, yeah, should cost depends on the perspective. If you're looking at the EMS, you've estimated the cost.
Yeah.
And if the OEM has a model, then they've attained the should cost.
Yeah. Well, but
So
the EMS is also going to apply its markup to the underlying costs, right?
yeah,
Um,
exactly. So
and
yeah, in our scenario, we're trying to get the most accurate, legitimate labor cost associated with the build. And once you have an accurate material cost estimate and labor cost estimate, then you can honestly account for markup and margin, and then your cost of goods sold and all of the downstream processes become easier because you're not baking in labor cost into an inflated
Mhm.
material price and all these things, which are
Yeah.
they're a useful tool in the industry, but they're not that useful in the long term.
Yeah. And again, I mean, the labor piece, not to belabor the issue, pardon the bad pun, is such as if you look at the overall pie of the cost for the build, it's mostly materials, right? That's where you can get the most bang for the buck. And that's where you guys, I think, that's what your history is, has been helping people in consolidating. And as I see everything going on in the industry, it's really, gaining that the insight and the being able to very quickly put together the costing of all the material.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, if we start at the end of the material estimate and work our way backwards,
Hmm.
at the end, we want a competitive material estimate, right? We
Hmm.
want low prices with a variety of options on the whole bill of materials. So that's
Yes.
the end result. And, that's the goal for every EMS.
Yeah.
And the way that Luminovo brings you from the typically poorly formatted, dirty input customer bill of materials all the way through to that step is just totally streamlined, empowered and streamlined with AI throughout the whole process.
Okay.
So, so yeah, I mean that you're right. That is the core of the EMS use case is fast and accurate and competitive pricing on the materials, and
Mhm.
then really Luminovo, the thing that makes us so different is all of the supporting functions. Dealing with data aggregation or cleaning of the BOM or dealing with compliance and life cycle and obsolescence risk. All of these supporting functions, which are tedious and put the brakes on the quoting process, those are the things that we're really automating, right? And so the results speak for themselves. We see, people who are used to responding 2 to 3 weeks to a quote, doing it in same day stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And theoretically, depending on the appetite for automation, you could actually get real-time quotes.
Yes. Yeah. But, let me ask, there's a couple things I want to probe on. First of all, I'm assuming from a competitive perspective, you still compete primarily with kind of in-house processes for some of these EMS, right? Or is there more than, I mean, there's competitors in the industry, obviously, for you,
Mhm.
whom we don't have to name, but are you still seeing a lot of just in-house processes this way? Here's our quote department.
Yeah, I would say I see a pretty even split between people who are using um, either legacy tools or in-house tools.
Hmm.
And I would say the split of those people is like 90% are using some version of an Excel spreadsheet, right? They vary in levels of complexity, whether they're macro enabled or if they're on, iteration 1 or iteration 50.
Yeah.
So that's, I would say, the majority of the homegrown solutions. There are a small contingent of EMS that have actually hand built, hand coded their own quoting solution, which is always interesting to see. And these are typically EMS with like someone in IT or leadership who's really gung ho about creating their own tools. It's kind of fun for me to see that because many years ago I actually built one of those back in 2020, I believe. So yeah, I mean it's nice to see that. And then the other half of the market, roughly, I would say, is using other systems, other tools, and they're always excited to see what Luminovo brings out of the European innovation and brings it into the North American market. There are some similarities, but there's a lot of differences, both in the product and the speed, but also in just like the pace of innovation. So it's really good for the market that and for everybody involved that Luminovo is driving forward the innovation, because customers get access to innovation, and we're just setting the bar across the whole industry.
So, how difficult is it to convince that 50% that do it in-house to change their behavior in this regard and to consider a Luminovo-like platform?
It's not that hard to convince them of the value. I would say that the place where EMS sometimes, often rightly, take a pause is they say, we've been profitable for 25 years. I know that this is valuable, and I know I need to do this sometime eventually, but like, what about right now? Do I have to do it right now? Can't I do it in a year? So I would say it's not hard to convince people of the value. It is, some people see it with urgency and some people do not. And I think that when we have situations like in this year, we have volatile markets, we have tariff weirdness, we have all of these triggers, which eventually, it helps people see like, what, I can see the value, and actually there's enough pain in the quoting process right now that I need to simplify. I need to automate. I need to streamline. So yeah, I guess people adopt at their own pace. But when you have tariffs, fluctuating like crazy, or you have honestly just prices are hard to compete on, stuff like this, that is a driving force for sure.
Okay. One last thing I want to touch on, because you mentioned it in there, is the automation part. The more they automate, and that's really, seems to me, with what's happening here, is you're automating a lot of the daily routines, which allows people to become more strategic in what they're doing, right? They don't have to do a lot of these cumbersome tasks anymore. You don't have to be updating your spreadsheets all the time and reaching out with, to the various distributors or whoever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, it is a shift when you can automate the mundane. You get to ask your employees to focus on the strategic, right? So that is what we see. If you don't have to spend your time finding penny parts, and if you don't have to spend your time finding part alternatives and all of these very common industry challenges, then you get to negotiate on those high value components, and you get to compete on price. And I would actually add to my previous comment about EMS saying, we've been profitable for 25 years, why change now? The one other element, in addition to, market weirdness that we're seeing and volatility, is that during those 25 years, the status quo was a 3-year quote return, right? A 3-week, did I say year? 3-week to return a quote in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that is no longer the status quo, right? So EMS are expecting faster, better, cheaper, as always. This is the way the market goes. And so I guess it's sort of like the longer people wait, on these forms of automations, incrementally increases the gap in service
Mm.
that they can provide
Yeah.
because now there's a latency.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's the other driving force on people saying, do I adopt it now? Do I wait 6 months? You know
Mhm.
what? Let's just jump on the boat and get moving here.
And get moving here. No, no, no. That's very good. I want to ask you about you just launched this week, not you personally, but Luminovo, Electronics GPT, and it's described as a free-to-use AI agent built specifically for electronics procurement. Love the name, right? I when I saw it come out, leveraging the GPT piece, I think that will resonate well with people. But tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a chat GPT style interface. And people are now familiar mostly with the
Yeah.
power of these large language models and are, gaining confidence and comfort with using them. But they often lack the fundamental underlying data, the foundation to provide the right response.
Hmm.
So, what electronics GPT is doing is it's mating the two. It's taking that familiar, impressive large language model interface and it's mating it to a solid data foundation and backend
Hmm.
specifically for the electronics components. And so the result you can look for like, availability, compliance type stuff, all sorts of questions that you would have typically as like a sourcing person in the electronics, supply chain manager, quoting team, any of those guys. And it just gives a slightly different interface. I also would speculate that it gives a little preview into how quoting will look in 5 years. It won't be a fill out a form or like even be on a website. It will be this agentic experience. And so what we're seeing here is just the very tip of the iceberg, just the very start of the trend towards agentic AI and electronics quoting.
Yeah. No, I think it sounds very cool. And I will say one of the things that resonated, and I'm going to read, were what they call, or you're calling the background agents on those, right? So you can schedule tasks such as weekly reports or whatever it is, and those will be running for it. I think of it like, remember the old things when you'd want to find the best price on air, so airplane flight, so you build your, and then you wait for it to come around, right? It would be sent to you.
Mhm.
Okay, now's the
Yeah,
time to buy, right? But this, it's almost like it's taking those tasks that you would do, and it's can constantly be it's the way I sound, the way I'm hearing it, can be constantly updating and ready in the background for you.
yeah, and I mean that is sort of a part of the core offering as well, like stuff like monitoring a bomb if parts um, if there's new compliance problems with the bomb, or if there's a part that's completely out of stock, you don't need to look for that. You can have Luminovo look for this information. So that's right along the theme of operating the mundane, so you can focus on the strategic.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
And it's
yeah.
interesting. I heard an interview or listened to a podcast with Jensen from NVIDIA, and he was talking about how everybody thought that in radiology that AI was going to kill all these jobs, right? He said because they thought because the AI agents became so good at DICE. He said in actuality it's doubled the amount because now those people instead of doing all this mundane stuff can really focus on what instead of analyzing images they can focus on the disease recognition and what those. He says so. There's actually been an increase, and AI has leverage and helped build the industry because now focusing on the strategic, not the mundane.
Totally. I would say my career has been full of innovation, or not necessarily me doing the innovation, right? I
Yeah.
want to just clarify, but at least being innovation adjacent, like I am with Luminovo, where I'm part of this amazing team and the engineers are bringing this innovation to life.
Yeah.
And I would say every time there's the initial response from people, they go, "Oh, like is this a replacement?" And it never is. It's never a replacement. It's a set of power tools. And like you find me the person who was building a house with hammer and nails, and
Yeah.
like you can't find that person. And yet there's lots of construction. Yeah. So anyways, the same is true with AI. It's a great example.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it is, and I mention that because people see this, say, oh, all the people in purchasing might get concerned about is it putting them out of job. The reality is, no, you're still going to need, we still need people making decisions based on what's coming out of this. So,
Well, I would say there's good reason to be concerned if you're not using power tools. Like if you are a quoting person and your company is sending you to build an apartment building and they're not giving you battery powered power tools,
yeah,
it's hard for you to succeed. So
yeah,
I would say like the reality is the industry is changing in the same way that we don't see hand tools on job sites.
yeah.
So I mean there's some reason to be concerned, but on the other side, it's like, okay, here's an opportunity for me to get better, and the industry is expecting that sort of pace now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, before I let you go, I want to ask, we're at the beginning 2026. What are your plans for meeting with the industry in North America here this year?
Yeah, well, we're growing in size. We've more than doubled in size already, and we're not even at the end of January. So our North America team has doubled in size, of course. Um, and we're going to a couple events. We'll be going to, I think, a bunch of the Design Depart events. We really enjoyed those last year. Also, we'll be going to IPC Apex this
Mhm.
year in March, as well as PCB West, and we're thinking about a couple other ones in the middle too. So, yeah, we'll see you at some events. We'll be doing some, some road trips, and coming, doing our best to make our way and meet everyone in the industry. Last year, we did a lot of events, probably too many, a little over eager, and so
Mhm.
we're toning it down a little bit to a more manageable amount, so that there's still some semblance of balance. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's how we're doing it this year.
Good.
By the way, are there any events that you would suggest that are a must visit?
I'm not going to say anything live on here in case I offend
Okay,
somebody right in the
okay,
process. We could talk offline, but yeah, we will certainly be covering the Apex Expo. I don't know that we're calling it IPC anymore because they changed their
true. I think it's got a new name. Yeah.
yeah, it's they're the new Twitter X thing, IPC and Global Electronics Association. So,
Okay. Yeah. So we're
so
going to Apex. Yeah.
yeah, go to the Apex Expo. No, and I think the ones you mentioned are certainly some good ones. And when we go offline here, I may mention some others. So
Okay. Right on.
I'm not taking the bait. Um, listen, this is excellent. And by the way, for people listening, if you can't get to the show, reach out to Sam directly. You can find him certainly on LinkedIn. You can go through the Luminovo site as well. It's
Yeah.
2026. It's easy to find people.
Yeah. I would say maybe two things. If you want to contact me, it's just sam.mason@luminovo.com. So super easy. You'll see my first and last name there on the screen. And then for the GPT, it's just electronicsgpt.luminovo.com. So go check it out. You can play around, it'll be useful, but also it'll be a little fun. Give you a little preview into what coding will look like 5 to 10 years from now.
And it is free to use. So
Yeah, totally free.
yeah, you leave your credit card in your wallet. So
Yeah,
yeah. Sam, listen, I appreciate the time as always. I think this is excellent. This is a good update. And look forward to hearing more about it as the year goes on.
awesome. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.